Some women don't chase. They don't plead for reassurance or soften themselves to be understood, and yet they are never forgotten. She enters a room without announcing herself. Her presence does not reach outward. It settles inward. There is no performance in her posture, no urgency in her gaze. To some, she seems distant. To others, cold. But to the unconscious mind, she is something else entirely. A mirror without distortion. And that is where the fear begins. In Jungian psychology, fear does not arise from danger alone. It arises when the ego encounters what it cannot control. The archetypal woman who feels nothing, or a pear stew, does not react in expected ways. She does not regulate a man's emotions for him. She does not rush to close the distance when tension appears. Her calm interrupts patterns that rely on pursuit and reward. At first, the man mistakes this for intrigue. Desire forms easily when mystery is present. But this is not flirtation. This is individuation embodied. She is not withholding emotion to manipulate. She is simply not leaking herself into situations that do not earn her presence. And something in him senses it. The unconscious begins its quiet work. The anima, the inner feminine image within the male psyche, stirs. She represents feeling, intuition, depth. When a man has not integrated this inner world, he searches for it externally. He projects it onto women. Most women reflect it back through emotional availability. This woman does not. That is the first turning point. He realizes she cannot be pulled into his gravity. His charm does not soften her. His distance does not provoke her. His presence does not complete her. And without meaning to, she forces him inward. Stoic psychology teaches that suffering begins where attachment demands control. Trauma psychology adds another layer. The nervous system becomes dysregulated when familiar emotional cues disappear. The woman who feels nothing removes the signals he unconsciously depends on. No reassurance, no anxiety, no emotional bargaining. He feels unsteady without knowing why. This is where fear replaces attraction. Not fear of her leaving, but fear of her not needing to stay. He begins watching her more closely, reading micro-expressions, interpreting silence as judgment. Her emotional neutrality becomes a canvas for projection. The ego, desperate to restore balance, assigns meaning where none is offered. Coldness, superiority, rejection. But the truth is simpler and more unsettling. She is self-contained. The second turning point arrives when he senses her emotional self-worth. Not declared, not defended. Simply lived. She does not prove value through endurance or loyalty. She does not earn love through self-abandonment. Her boundaries are not walls. They are clarity. For a man whose attachment was shaped by inconsistency, this feels dangerous. Trauma bonds rely on emotional volatility. They thrive on highs and lows, on earning affection through effort. The woman who feels nothing offers no hooks. The nervous system cannot attach to calm it cannot predict. You can feel this moment when it happens. Attention from him intensifies, but connection does not deepen. Questions become indirect. Affection carries an edge of anxiety. Control attempts appear disguised as concern, and still, she does not react. This is not indifference. This is regulation. Jung would describe this as the ego encountering the shadow. The shadow contains everything denied: insecurity, dependence, fear of abandonment. The woman who feels nothing does not absorb these projections. She reflects them back through her stillness. The third turning point is internal collapse. He realizes she cannot be managed emotionally. She will not argue to stay. She will not perform vulnerability on command. She will not break herself open to make him comfortable. And suddenly, the dynamic reverses. He feels exposed. Fear surfaces, not because she is powerful over him, but because he is powerless over her. The ego, which thrives on being needed, begins to fracture. Desire tightens, attachment intensifies. But admiration mixes with resentment. Some men pull away at this point. Others cling. Both reactions come from the same place: the inability to integrate the feminine within themselves. You might notice how the air changes around her then. Conversations feel heavier. Pauses stretch longer. There is a sense that something important is happening beneath the surface, unspoken. She is no longer just a woman. She is a threshold. The fourth turning point belongs to her. She sees the shift without needing to analyze it. She senses the weight of his attention, the subtle demand beneath it, and instead of leaning in, she leans back into herself. Not out of punishment, out of truth. This is individuation in motion. She chooses alignment over attachment, awareness over fantasy. She understands that being desired is not the same as being seen, and she refuses to trade her inner peace for emotional chaos. The man feels this withdrawal not as loss, but as threat, because what he fears is not her absence, it is her clarity. The woman who feels nothing is not numb. She has simply learned not to confuse intensity with intimacy. Her nervous system no longer equates love with volatility. She does not mistake being wanted for being valued, and that is why she is feared. Because she exposes the cost of unconscious attachment. Because she refuses to participate in emotional bargaining. Because her presence asks a question the ego does not want to answer. Who are you without control? In the end, she does not leave dramatically. She does not demand understanding. She simply turns toward her own life with quiet precision. And in that movement, something irreversible happens. The woman who walks away in silence isn't weak. She simply sees more.